Hi, everybody. My name is Jim Chilsen. I'm Director of Communications for the Citizens Utility Board, or CUB. And we've got sirens going on outside both of our homes, so I hope you can't hear that. But welcome to CUB's Giving Tuesday Facebook Live. Now, of course, you know, Giving Tuesday is the International Day for supporting nonprofits. We hope you can give a gift to CUB today for clean energy, consumer protections, and lower utility bills. But I have a gift for all of you. We're going to be talking to CUB Executive Director Sarah Moskowitz, who just rolled her eyes at me. I want to say, I'm going to be real quick about this and we can dive into it. But Sarah has been working more than 2 decades for Illinois consumers. She spent hours on the consumer hotline answering complaints and questions from consumers. She has traveled thousands of miles. She's done utility bill clinics in church basements, in libraries, in civic centers across the state, showing people how to cut their bills. And I will tell you, I was there on Sarah's very first day. Sandra was running late, our head of consumer advocacy. She asked me to let Sarah and Martin Nava, who's another great former Cubby, in, and I showed them to their desks, and the rest is history. But I will tell you 2 things about Sarah I could tell right away. Fierce intelligence, and she had the attitude of a prize fighter. But that, I mean, she was a fighter. And it's just, I got to say this honestly, this is not me kissing up, is that, Sarah, it's an honor to talk with you, to work for you, and to talk with you. So thank you.
Jim, the check's in the mail, man. and right back at you. You got me ever since you got me that mug of water on my first day. You know, you've been on my good list.
I remember that day.
Yeah, hours on the hotline. I'd say like months and years on the hotline. I still think that was the hardest job at CUB, is taking consumer calls. It was very rewarding, and I think that's part of why folks stick around. And our consumer rights counselors right now have been doing it for years. And that's partly because, unlike a lot of kind of helping jobs and social service type jobs, we actually do get results. Yeah. But it was still, you heard a lot of stories, and every day it was just a reality check on how much people are suffering from unaffordable bills. And in a climate like this, we need heat, we need electricity, we need telecommunications, we need water. These are really essential things. And I think folks who are well off don't realize just the extent to which these simple, basic human needs are not a given for way too many households in our state. So yeah, that's what keeps it real and why we keep going. And yeah, I mean, you've been at CUB for 3 months longer than I have, Jim, and it's been a while, more than half my life.
It's an awesome job, and I have to say, I do, you know, the wind chill is going to be down to -10 on Thursday, and I get frightened every time either the hot weather or the cold weather comes. So I just worry about the stress that people have about being able to afford their bills, and just hoping nobody's cutting corners, that they're using good energy efficiency. But I remember, Sarah, you were at times, I would see you some days, I was going about my communications jobs, and I would see you just livid, some days angry about how the utility in a particular instance was treating the consumer. And that was what I meant by by my prize fighter comment, is that I could see you just mad as hell about how the utilities were treating some consumers. So,
well, when I first started at CUB, public enemy number 1 was Ameritech. So that's how long we've been doing this.
Yeah. So let me first give a real quick commercial here. Of course, I just said it's Giving Tuesday, International Day for supporting nonprofits. We could use your kindness today, and today we're holding a special Giving Tuesday giveaway. So Elizabeth, I know you're going to be putting the special donation page in the chat. It's a special donation page we're using on social media. The first 5 people who give through that donation page, you're going to be entered in an iPad giveaway, the chance to win one of 2 iPads. That's great. But also, the first 5 people who give through that donation page are going to get a cell phone charger, one of these great cell phone chargers, sent to them. So please do not hesitate. Give CUB a gift. Of course, if you can't give a gift, you just can't do it. If it's not in your budget, there are plenty of other ways to give. You can volunteer at CUB. You can follow us on our social media platforms. You can join our email list. There's a lot of different ways to give to CUB, and we appreciate it all. So
I woke up this morning thinking about doing this Giving Tuesday live with you, Jim, and thinking about the organizations that I myself want to support this Giving Tuesday, because there are a lot of great organizations out there that are literally fighting for their lives. And I think CUB counts as one of those. Like, there's a lot of groups out there that you kind of assume are going to be okay, and like, but you shouldn't. Like, we're living hand to mouth out here, and it's not a given that nonprofits are going to continue. Like, you can't just sit back. Now that I am in charge of one, I realize that it's irresponsible to sit back and just assume that someone else is going to do it. Because that's what really leads to precarious situations, and it forces organizations to make difficult choices, and individual membership contributions is really the best kind of contribution, because that's what gives us the relevance and the street cred and the independence to do purely what's right for consumers, not led by any other agenda. And so I know that folks might not feel like your few bucks is really going to make a difference, but trust me, it does. And the extent to which individuals can help keep organizations like CUB afloat, it's a huge impact. So I know I've got my list. I'm working on my list of groups that I know that I need to be a part of keeping them afloat. And I hope that CUB is on your similar list. Yeah,
great point. I always say, any donation that's right for you is the right amount for us. Mm-hmm. So whatever you can afford, especially, today as we head into the end of year. So you talked about other groups. What does make CUB stand out? What do you think? What is a good reason to support CUB?
Yeah, well, we are unique in a few ways. First, we are focused on utilities, the regulated utilities, and there's no other organization that is focused on that. But we're also unique in kind of the role we play in the arena, in that we do all of that frontline consumer advocacy and consumer education through our outreach work and through our hotline. But we also work in the policy sphere. We also have a world-class communications team that puts together all kinds of educational resources for folks. And I think just the fact that we actually interact with the public, we are out there where we answer the phone, we look at our emails, we get letters from people that we read and respond to. I respond to letters myself. I think there's that accountability and the no degrees of separation between the work that we're doing in Springfield at the Illinois Commerce Commission, at the Illinois Power Agency, et cetera, and what we're hearing out in the field and the work that we're doing for individuals. I think it's just, we're where the rubber hits the road on a lot of these utility and nowadays energy related issues. And so we work in tandem with a lot of low income advocates, environmental advocates, municipalities and public officials who are fighting for their constituents. But our niche, focusing on utilities and actual kind of practical solutions to move us forward, is I think what sets us apart. And I think that's why this work is so rewarding and why I've been doing it for almost 25 years I think we're all lucky. You and I, Jim, and everyone else at CUB is lucky in that I think we really feel like we're doing something different and relevant and real. And I have a lot of friends who work at a lot of nonprofits, big nonprofits, well-funded nonprofits, but they're much smaller cogs in larger wheels. And I feel like even from day one at CUB, when I was a brand new, just out of college, working on our hotline, I felt like I was a part of something and making a real difference in a very direct way.
Yeah. Great Great point. You know, we're only about 20 people. That's what is amazing to me. And that hasn't wavered much over the years. Sometimes it's been maybe a little smaller, sometimes a little bigger than that, but it's been basically about 20 people. And there was a former CUB staffer who used to have a coffee cup that said, I'm not going to I'll give the PG version, get stuff done. She had another word for stuff, but I'm really proud to work for a group that does the work it does. And like you said, 100% focused. There's a lot of great nonprofits out there. We're 100% focused on reducing your utility bill. And I do think it's amazing. We have that foot in the policy world. We also have that foot in the grassroots world where we're doing these events and we're working in Springfield for good policy and nationally too. And both of those things inform the other, and I think it gives us a really a pragmatic and a practical approach about, how we're going to get things done. We've got a problem here, how we're going to deal with this. So.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I was helping one of our colleagues with an inquiry that they got from a consumer a couple of weeks ago. And the consumer, it made me realize that a lot of people think that we're a state agency. Yeah. A lot of people think that we regulate the utilities, which unfortunately we don't. If we did, things would be a little different around here. No, we're just an advocate. We're actually working, although we were created by state statute, we're outside of the state government, where we intervene in the processes whereby the utilities, set their rates, et cetera. But we're interveners. We're not decision makers like the Illinois Commerce Commission is, right? But a lot of people kind of think that we are, and that we're the ones who let utilities do things. And sometimes I'm like, come on, they don't have that kind of power. But it's also flattering, and I think it's a testament to how effective we are, that I think a lot of folks tend to think that we really do wield a big stick. And I like to think that we do, but yeah, we're banging on the doors and trying to make sure that the interests of consumers are not forgotten in all of these official venues. Yeah. Because these official venues are, as our colleague Brian, who works in Springfield, puts it, when he works in it's an alternate universe. Yeah. Things that seem like a given to us, such and such a thing is bad for consumers. Having door-to-door salespeople offering rip-off rip-off plans to energy customers is bad for consumers. But you go to some arenas and that's great. Those are choices. Those are empowering consumers. And I went to FERC a month ago, and it was like a day-long conference. There were a series of panels, and I was on the very last panel. And I don't think anybody had really talked about consumer impacts of everything that was being discussed until I got up there. And I was kind of like, I wasn't going to say this because I figured this would it would go without saying, but clearly it doesn't go without saying, is that these decisions being made in these venues have real impacts on people's livelihood and people's quality of life and people's stress level and whether people can afford food or afford medication. And I think, again, strangely, a lot of folks with the power to make decisions over these things kind of that's not front of mind in a way that I still find surprising even after all this time. Yeah.
You mentioned Brian. There's another prize fighter at CUB. What a great consumer advocate in Springfield, and what a great person to talk to also. And I was going to just add too that consumers, when we're writing fact sheets, writing publications, consumers challenge us all the time with just information they give us. They're some of our best sources for information, and they a lot of times they'll kind of throw me a curveball. Like, I think I have this thing written perfectly for a fact sheet or a publication, and people will say, Sandra will say, well, that's not what we're hearing from consumers. Or a consumer will tell me, face to face, that's not really how it's working. It's not quite working. And then it's just another challenge to try to educate, to try to do a better job working on these publications. But also, I think for outreach, for consumer advocacy, for all the different departments, is consumers. It really is a partnership. not only do we depend on your donations, we depend on your information. So
absolutely, it keeps us relevant. I mean, answering the phone and going out into the field and all that stuff is essential to the work that we do. Otherwise, we would just be in our apartments, kind of guessing. And like I always used to say when I was doing outreach and giving presentations in the field, like, yeah, call us up and we'll do what we can for you with your question or your utility related issue, but you're also helping us. You're keeping us relevant and you're apprising us of what's going on out there because, Jim, you and I are utility customers, although I think your bills are in your wife's name.
Please,
but,
public forum.
No, you show me your bills. I'm like, okay, but I know it's like sometimes you get home from work and you don't even want to look at another bill. My friends come to me with their energy questions, like, oh my God, fine, but there's only 20 of us, like you said. We really rely on our members and our supporters out there, letting us know what's going on out there.
Let me give I want to give a couple stats and let you react to this, but just talking about some of the different departments, I'm going to call out in a good way some of the people who work at CUB. Consumer Advocacy Department led by Sandra, and it has Ani and Danielle in there. This year, they've handled more than 1,500 consumer inquiries, saving individual utility customers a total of almost $36,000. It's probably over 36 now. I got that number from Sandra a few weeks ago, including one person, a small business owner who we saved. We got a refund of about $23,000 because they were caught on an alternative supplier ripoff. And the other one was the outreach department led by Yvonne. And that has, let me see, just so I give everybody credit. Grace, Yvonne leads it. Then there's Grace, Karen, Marina, Matt, Scott, and Zoe. They've staffed about 230 events this year, giving more than 5,000 consumers across the state of Illinois money-saving tips on anything from energy efficiency to reducing TV costs to fighting robocalls and avoiding scams. We found some guy at a utility bill clinic who was being triple charged by an alternative supplier. And he told us we got him off the deal. He said, you helped me save money. Keep up the good work. I wonder if you have worked in both of those departments. You were in the Consumer Advocacy Department. That's where you cut your teeth originally at CUB. And also you worked in the Outreach Department. Any words you want to say about those two experiences and the people that work in those departments?
I mean, they're doing great work. Having done it myself, I know it takes a lot of energy. Folks, when they call our hotline, they're not calling because they're happy. They're not calling because things are going well. They're calling because they're mad about something, or they have a question about something, or they might even be in crisis. And so, the folks, the fact that we have consumer rights counselors, like I said, who've been doing it for years, is really a testament to how the extent to which we are able to help folks who call under those circumstances. Outreach was great fun. I mean, that's a hard job too. The hours are weird, worked a lot of weekends, a lot of nights, spent a lot of time behind the wheel. I know when I was director of outreach, I used to just, I would have to calm myself down thinking about all of my staff driving in cars all over the state. I just would get so nervous about everyone's just physical safety driving to do the job. But it was so fun too. And it was kind of built-in team building. When you would go do a utility bill clinic and bring a bunch of staff together and we'd be traveling together, a road trip, really just kind of solidifying the strength of the team. And again, learning from the folks that we're interacting with out in the field and using what we're hearing in the field to guide our work. I was thinking about, so much of the outreach that we are doing and so many of the calls that we get are now from people who have questions about how to tap into the clean energy economy or how to take advantage of a lot of the relatively new programs that are available to people who want to make their homes more airtight, more efficient, cut energy waste, maybe even take advantage of rooftop solar incentives or maybe community solar if you live in an apartment or don't own your home. And I remember when the state law passed, FEJA passed, that created the state incentives for solar. And people, the citizens of Illinois who were interested in these programs didn't really have anywhere to turn for information about them. And so when they first started, they would call CUB and we would be like, well, I don't know, try calling like the Solar Energy Association. And sorry to the people at ICEA, you know, I mean, there were like 2 people over there and they're not set up to take calls from consumers. They're just not. They work on policy. And same with the environmental organizations. It's not like we're going to tell them. I mean, hats off to the Enviros. They do a lot of good work. But again, they don't have hotlines. They don't have staff whose job it is just to answer the phone. So we started getting all these inquiries about the solar incentives. And we're like, it just stunk to have to be like, we don't know, go find someone else. There's nobody else to ask. Yeah. So we had a staffer who was really passionate about these issues, and she started studying up and she started answering people's questions. And then she started hearing from people who had gone through the process of installing solar or signing up for community solar. And then we used those learnings to then turn around and participate in processes at the Illinois Power Agency to set up consumer protection rules around solar and what have you, know? And so it's just like, we responded, and I'm very, very proud of the fact that when Illinoisans have questions or issues about any of the programs that we've fought so hard to make available to residential utility customers, you know, we're there. We're not just passing a law and then just riding off into the sunset. We are there to make sure that it's working for people. Like it's a cliche. Implementation is where the hard work begins. You say that, but we live it at CUB. I mean, without like the implementation, we have to do it. We have to do it. We can't just be like, oh, well, we passed the law. I don't know. You're on your own now. Like, no, that's not how we roll.
Yeah. You know, Sarah, last year, about this time, I saw you were live on WGN TV, and you were being interviewed about this program that we have called the Solar Switch program. It's a solar group buy program. And, you know, we've been doing it for about 5 years now. Some guy reached out to us recently and said he's part of the solar group buy program where you get discounted solar panels on your home. And he's starting in April, he said, my ComEd bill has been zero. He said, keep up the great work. But I remember there was one point in the interview where Claudia, my wife, and I were watching it, and you said something like, well, you know, we're a consumer advocate. And I got I got emotional. I was so embarrassed. It was so embarrassing, but it was like somebody's got to be at the table always saying that solar power is great. Everybody agrees it's great. It lowers utility bills, but you always have to have somebody at the table saying, remember the consumer, defend the consumer. You know, we got to have consumer protections. And that was our message through this solar group buy program. And it's our message overall is just always remember the consumer. How can we do these programs with always thinking about how it impacts the consumer? And I really, I'm proud of that. And I will say, you know, I used to think, you know, consumer advocacy was just fighting rate hikes. Now, you know, it's broadened my view of what consumer advocacy is, that it's just on every front, you know, we're fighting for the consumer, you know, the clean energy transition, but we still fight rate hikes. I just want to give a shout out to Eric and Laura, our 2-person legal team. They've challenged a record number of rate hikes, billions of dollars in rate hikes over the past 2 years. This year, we've recommended about $250 million in rejecting about $250 million of rate hikes proposed by the different companies. Wondering if you can speak to, you know, you just talked about the grassroots work we do, outreach and the consumer advocacy. What about what the legal team does?
For sure. And it's amazing. I mean, people are shocked when they find out we only have 2 lawyers on staff. I'm shocked by that. I wish I had more, but they're doing fantastic work. The utilities go to the Illinois Commerce Commission when they want to mess with our rates. And then we intervene and we hire our experts and our economists and battle it out. And it's never ending. But we've been able to the way it works is, you know, there's the Illinois Commerce Commission, the commissioners who are appointed by the governor, and they decide at the end of a rate case. There is ICC staff who also intervene in the rate case and put forward their views. CUB does, of course, the utilities, but other entities, other industry groups, labor, low-income advocates, the Illinois Attorney General's office. We often do a lot of divide and conquer with them because they also do consumer advocacy at the ICC. But the commissioners on the Illinois Commerce Commission have to base their decisions on what is entered into the record in the course of a rate case. And so we need to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for them to make the right decisions. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of labor, and a lot of resources, both to kind of support our attorneys, but also they work really closely with experts who actually do a lot of the accounting and the economics work and sometimes engineering work to kind of push back on what the utilities are saying they need. And it's a lot of, you're spinning a lot of plates. You're working on multiple rate cases at a time. It's not like you're just all focused on the gas, like People's Gas, and then you're all focused on ComEd. These are happening concurrently, and it's so much. It's so much, and again, it's its own universe too. But again, our legal team, they're talking to all of us all the time, and so they're hearing also about what's going on in the field. Right now, we're waiting for a decision on one of the electric utility rate cases where the electric utility is basically trying to earn a profit off of what it's spending to fix a billing system mess up, like a colossal billing system mess up. And we're hearing from people that we meet in the field that the billing system still isn't fixed.
Right.
And so we can say, like, listen, like, they're messing this up, like, from beginning to end, and they want to earn a profit off of the what they've invested in this system. That's nonsense. So again, it's like the legal team is working in a really esoteric space. I'm not a lawyer, but it's really, and the part of why I'm not is because I think it's just too esoteric and removed from reality for me. But still, they're CUB, and they are informed again by what is happening in the real world, and they're getting informed by the people that we work with in the team. And my hat's off to them, because I would not be able to do what they did. And that's one of the jobs I have not had at CUB. I was never a lawyer, and that's one of the things I never want to do. Hats off.
I couldn't believe it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm done.
I was just going to say, I agree. Hats off to Eric and Laura. When Eric told me about, what ComEd was trying to do to make consumers pay for their botched billing, system, transfer, it's just so gross in so many ways. So I'm glad Eric and Laura are fighting the good fight. We just had an Aqua, Illinois rate case. We helped reduce that rate hike by about 43%. We never like to see rates go up. We are happy that the Commerce Commission reduced it at least some, but there's a lot more work to do. Let me just, to talk about an esoteric space, can you just say, we have a few minutes left, can you say a little bit about the good work that Clara Summers is doing managing the Consumers for a Better Grid campaign? A lot of people have never heard about PJM, and it has a huge impact on our electricity bills.
Oh boy. Okay. We got a minute left. So I am, again, so lucky because we work with a fantastic team at CUB. It's true. It is humbling how awesome my colleagues are here at CUB. And Clara is one of those. She is our campaign manager for Consumers for a Better Grid. And her full-time job essentially is to keep an eye on PJM Interconnection, which is the entity that runs the power grid that includes the ComEd service territory. And like you said, a lot of people don't even know what PJM has, never heard of it, but it is essentially important because it has a lot of power over, no pun intended, I promise, has a lot of power over where our electricity is coming from and what we pay for that electricity. Because a lot of what we pay for in our rates for electricity includes things like regional transmission and capacity, which is this idea that we need to pay extra to get more power plants online for when we need power the most. And the way that PJM sets those rules and the way that PJM is governed, unfortunately, hasn't really been working to the benefit of everyday consumers, the everyday consumers that we represent. And also, unfortunately, esoteric. I mean, this entity, it's all meetings all the time. They're very opaque. There's a real barrier to entry in terms of just how complicated and kind of just jargon laden and technical all of these processes are. And it's really impossible to keep tabs on it without some significant staff resources. And guess who has a lot of staff resources? It's your generators, it's your utilities, it's your transmission owners. We're really up against it. We're just so there's a group of consumer advocates who work in it, and they're really constrained. They don't have a lot of staff time to dedicate to it. And so the fact that we're able to have Clara on staff, who is just keeping an eye on these guys all the time, is a real gift. It's a gift to me because I know this is really important, but it's also, she's doing a lot of great work on behalf of Illinois consumers in venues that very few of us are even aware of.
Right. Just sincere consumer advocacy, just wanting to do everything that's right for consumers. So thank you, Sarah, for explaining that. Just a couple concluding comments here. My mom would be really mad if I didn't say thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for leading us. We really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to the CUB staff. Elizabeth Brandon is behind the scenes today, but all of the CUB staff, they just motivate me to do a better job and always want to do what's right for consumers. It's not always easy on a tight budget, fighting for consumers, fighting against the big utilities, but you all do a great job. And I also, on this Giving Tuesday, just want to thank our supporters. And by supporters, I mean anybody who opens up our emails, anybody who gives us a donation, anybody who volunteers for CUB, whatever your involvement with CUB, whatever your partnership, we just really appreciate you. I do want to give a quick commercial, but Sarah, do you have any final words to consumers?
Just thank you all. Thanks for the support. Pay attention to your bills. I know it's hard, but there's a lot happening in there. And if we don't pay attention, they're going to get away with it. And support the organizations that you believe in today. Like I said, we appreciate it, and all of the good groups out there appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So once again, everybody, thanks for listening today. Again, if you give a donation today, you qualify for an iPad giveaway. We're giving away 2 iPads. We'll pick randomly pick 2 people tomorrow. Also, the first 5 people to give through the donation page in the chat are going to get a cell phone charger sent to you. Really nice cell phone charger with the CUB logo on it. So I wish everybody a great day. Sarah, thanks a lot. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Jim. See ya.